You think they don't care about you. You think they moved on without a second thought. But here's the disturbing truth. The narcissist in your life needs you more than you could ever imagine. Not because they love you, not because they miss you, but because without you, they literally cease to exist. You are not a person to them, you are a power source. And today, we're going to expose the entire machinery behind what psychologists call narcissistic supply. The invisible fuel that keeps the narcissist alive. Supply fuel control. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why they chose you, why they can't let go, and why their greatest fear is the moment you stop feeding them. This isn't just psychology, this is survival knowledge. Let's begin. Imagine a person who looks confident, charming, even magnetic. They walk into a room and everyone notices, but behind that polished exterior is something terrifying. An emptiness so profound that no amount of success, money, or achievement can fill it. This is the narcissist's core wound. Psychoanalyst Otto Kernberg described narcissistic personality organization as a structure built around a fundamentally fragile self. The grandiosity you see on the surface isn't confidence, it's compensation. The narcissist is not self-absorbed. The narcissist has no self to absorb. Think about that for a moment. What you mistake for ego is actually the absence of a stable identity. They didn't develop a coherent sense of self during childhood, usually due to emotional neglect, conditional love, or being treated as an extension of a parent's ego. So they built a false self, a mask, to interact with the world. But here's the problem with masks. They require an audience. Without someone watching, the mask has no purpose. And without purpose, the narcissist faces the one thing they cannot survive, their own inner void. But what exactly fills that void? That's where supply comes in. Narcissistic supply is a term coined by psychoanalyst Otto Fenichel in 1938 and later expanded by Heinz Kohut in his work on self-psychology. It refers to the attention, admiration, emotional reactions, and validation that narcissists extract from others to regulate their internal state. Think of it like oxygen for someone who can't breathe on their own. Without supply, the narcissist experiences psychological suffocation. But here's what most people misunderstand. Supply isn't just compliments and praise. It comes in two forms. Primary supply is the big stuff: adoration, fame, sexual conquest, professional recognition. Secondary supply is the steady drip: a partner's daily attention, a friend's loyalty, a colleague's respect. The narcissist doesn't just want your admiration. They need your emotional energy in any form. Your anger feeds them. Your tears feed them. Your confusion feeds them. Even your hatred is supply, because it means you're still thinking about them. If you're finding this unsettling because you recognize this pattern, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring the depths of your psyche with me. There's so much more to uncover, and what comes next reveals why they specifically chose you. This is the part that hurts the most. You weren't chosen randomly. Narcissists are remarkably skilled at identifying the richest sources of supply. And what makes someone a rich source? Empathy, generosity, a strong desire to help and heal. Empathy, generosity, loyalty. The more compassionate you are, the more attractive you become to a narcissist, not because they admire your kindness, but because they can exploit it. Psychologist Sandra Brown's research on women who love psychopaths found that victims consistently scored high in agreeableness, conscientiousness, and emotional intelligence. These aren't weaknesses. These are strengths that were weaponized against you. Your greatest qualities became their greatest tools. They watched you carefully during the love bombing phase, noting what makes you feel special, what your insecurities are, what you desperately want to believe about yourself. Then they mirrored it back perfectly. They became your ideal partner, your soulmate, your missing piece. But it was never real. It was a strategy, calculated, precise, and devastatingly effective. And once they had you hooked, the real game began. Every narcissistic relationship follows a predictable cycle, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Phase 1, idealization. They put you on a pedestal. You're the most amazing person they've ever met. The compliments are overwhelming. The attention is intoxicating. You feel like you've finally found someone who truly sees you. Phase 2, devaluation. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the praise turns to criticism. The warmth becomes coldness. You start walking on eggshells. You try harder. You give more. And that's exactly the point. 1. Idealization creates emotional dependency. 2. Devaluation triggers desperate people-pleasing. 3. Intermittent reinforcement bonds you chemically. 4. Discard happens when supply diminishes. Phase 3, discard. When you're emotionally depleted, when you stop providing the quality of supply they need, they dispose of you. Not because they found someone better, but because they found someone fresher, someone who hasn't been drained yet. As psychologist Craig Malkin explains in his book Rethinking Narcissism, this cycle isn't random. It's a systematic process of emotional extraction. But here's the twist most people miss. The cycle doesn't end at discard. Just when you think it's over, just when you're starting to heal, they come back, a text message, a call, showing up at your door with tears in their eyes. This is called hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner, because they're trying to suck you back in. Hoovering return trap. And it works devastatingly well. Why? Because the idealization phase created a chemical addiction in your brain. Neuroscientist Helen Fisher's research on romantic rejection shows that the same brain regions activated by cocaine withdrawal light up when we lose a romantic partner. The narcissist intuitively understands this. They know that one kind word, one moment of warmth, will trigger a flood of dopamine and oxytocin that overrides your rational mind. Trauma bonds are not a sign of weakness. They are evidence of a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. You're not stupid for going back, you're neurochemically hijacked. The narcissist counts on this. They maintain what psychologists call a rotation of supply sources, keeping multiple people in various stages of the cycle so they're never truly without fuel. And speaking of fuel, what happens when the supply actually runs out? This is perhaps the most important concept to understand. When a narcissist loses their supply, when you go no contact, when you stop reacting, when you genuinely move on, they don't just feel sad, they experience what Kohut called narcissistic injury. Collapse. It's a psychological crisis. Their carefully constructed false self begins to crumble. Without the mirror of your reactions reflecting their grandiosity back to them, they're forced to confront that terrifying inner void we talked about earlier. The mask cracks and the emptiness bleeds through. This is why narcissists can become extremely dangerous when you leave. The rage you witness isn't proportional to losing a partner. It's proportional to losing their psychological life support system. Psychiatrist James Masterson described narcissistic injury as a threat to the individual's very existence. Not physical existence, but psychological existence. Your departure doesn't break their heart. It threatens to destroy their identity. This explains the stalking, the smear campaigns, the flying monkeys. It's not love, it's existential panic. They will do almost anything to restore supply because the alternative is facing who they really are underneath the mask. But there's an even darker layer to this. Not all supply is created equal, and understanding the hierarchy reveals just how calculated the narcissist's behavior truly is. At the top sits what researchers call positive supply. Admiration, praise, sexual attention, public recognition. This is the preferred fuel. It reinforces the grandiose false self. Admiration, praise, control. But when positive supply becomes scarce, the narcissist shifts to negative supply. Your fear, your confusion, your pain, and here's the disturbing reality. Negative supply is actually more reliable. It is easier to make someone cry than to make someone admire you. This is why narcissists deliberately provoke arguments, create chaos, and gaslight. They're not losing control. They're harvesting a different crop. Then there's what I call proxy supply, the admiration they get through association. Your achievements, your beauty, your social status reflect back on them. This is why some narcissists are incredibly supportive early on. They're investing in you as a supply asset. Every emotional reaction you have is converted into psychological fuel. Your tears and your laughter serve the same function. The only thing that starves them is something they cannot tolerate. The one thing a narcissist cannot feed on is indifference. Not anger pretending to be indifference, not coldness masking pain, genuine, boring, unremarkable emotional neutrality. This is the foundation of what's known as the gray rock method. You become so emotionally uninteresting that the narcissist loses interest in you. Developed by blogger Skylar from the love fraud community and supported by clinical psychologists, this technique involves making yourself as boring and unreactive as a gray rock. Short answers, no emotional displays, no defending yourself, no explaining. 1. Respond with flat, boring answers. 2. Never reveal emotions or vulnerabilities. 3. Avoid arguments, they feed the narcissist. 4. Make yourself the least interesting option. When you stop providing emotional reactions, positive or negative, you become a depleted supply source. And narcissists, being fundamentally pragmatic about their survival, will eventually seek supply elsewhere. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. But this method requires something most victims find incredibly difficult. It requires you to understand why your own emotional responses have been weaponized against you. And that leads us to the deepest layer of this dynamic. Here's the uncomfortable truth that most psychology channels won't tell you. The narcissist supply dynamic only works because something in the victim resonates with it. This is not victim blaming. This is the key to your freedom. Psychologist Ross Rosenberg, in his book The Human Magnet Syndrome, describes how narcissists and codependents are drawn together like opposite poles of a magnet. The narcissist needs someone to provide supply. The codependent needs someone to fix, save, or earn love from. Narcissist codependent magnet. Many people who repeatedly attract narcissists grew up in environments where love was conditional, where they learned that their worth depended on meeting someone else's emotional needs. So when a narcissist appears and says you're everything, it feels like the love you've been starving for your entire life. The narcissist offers a counterfeit version of the love you never received. Breaking free isn't just about leaving the narcissist. It's about understanding why you were vulnerable to them in the first place. As Carl Jung taught us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that transformation brings us to the most important part of everything we've discussed. Now you understand the full picture. Narcissistic supply is the attention, admiration, and emotional energy that narcissists extract from others to regulate their fragile self-esteem. Without it, they collapse into narcissistic injury, which is why they never truly let you go. But here's the revelation that changes everything. Freedom. The moment you understand this dynamic, the spell breaks. You realize their power over you was never about their strength. It was about your unawareness, every manipulation tactic. The love bombing, the gaslighting, the hoovering, the triangulation. All of it was designed to keep you producing supply. Once you see the machinery, you can no longer be caught in it. Clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula emphasizes that education is the #1 predictor of recovery from narcissistic abuse. Not therapy alone, knowledge. Understanding the pattern intellectually disrupts its emotional grip. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is liberation. Your empathy isn't a flaw to fix. It's a gift to protect. Set boundaries not because you're cold, but because your emotional energy is precious. You are not their supply. You never were. You are a complete human being whose warmth and love deserve to be received, not extracted. So let's bring this full circle. The narcissist in your life, past or present, didn't target you because you were weak. They targeted you because you had exactly what they lacked: empathy, depth, the ability to feel. Empathy, depth, strength. And understanding narcissistic supply isn't about holding grudges or labeling people. It's about protecting the most valuable thing you possess: your emotional energy. Every relationship you enter from this point forward can be different, not because the world will change, but because you now see the patterns that were invisible before. If you made it this far, comment supply CUT if you're ready to stop being someone's emotional fuel station. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Welcome to the Psyche Project.